Genau. Play along and say nothing. I winked at him with a small naughty smile that made him blush lightly. See you in a moment, then. I was in high spirits when we parted ways. I rushed to leave our books, notebooks, and stuff in our bedroom. I peeked at the half-open door of the study room. Rick had taken our favorite table and was placing things on the chairs to save our spots. So far, so good. I calculated Monty would be there in barely 5 minutes, and then Rick would leave him at our table and would run to join me on the 3rd floor. I couldn't deny the idea of a secret date was thrilling. Grinning, I headed for the main stairs. I still hadn't had the chance to see the place during daylight, and I must say it looked as distressing as I imagined it. The main corridor was wide and well illuminated, but it stank of dampness, and there were puddles here and there where the roof was damaged. I shivered. The place was as soulless as cold. I started to wander by the empty rooms attached to the corridor in search for a good spot for us. Had Rick come here to prepare the place in advance, to bring a couple of blankets, for example? Then, with some fireplaces that showed traces of having been used, but no wood inside sighting, I kept searching. Well, I was sure Rick would know what to do once he joined me. I didn't like the idea of undressing there, but just the thought of being with Rick made me feel a sudden warmth going all over my body. That was the kind of things I had in my mind when I noticed a silhouette moving behind me. I turned quickly, scared with the sudden hunch that the shape didn't belong to Rick. There was a man in the hollow where a double door was surely in the past shutting the wide room. I was currently in at the main corridor. It was a burly man with an unkempt beard and broad shoulders. He smiled at me, and some of his teeth were brown and half broken. "Hello, boy. I hope you have enjoyed your stay at St. Michael's." I nodded with uneasiness. The man was blocking the only exit. He stepped closer. "I'm glad. I regret to say that you have overstayed your welcome here." What? 2 people more appeared at the threshold behind him. One of them was a boy around my age, but way taller, and the other one was similar to the first man, around 40 years old, strong, and with a rough air around them. The man grinned wider, showing off his irregular dimensions. "You have heard me? I'm sorry about this, boy, but I never questioned good money." The 3 of them started to advance towards me at once. I screamed and tried to find an alternative way out, but there was none. The room didn't have any windows, and the fireplace was covered with wooden boards. When the second man was close enough, I finally recognized those lips and the square chin. He was the one who attacked me in the woods. Frozen with terror, I resorted to scream my lungs out. They laughed out loud and shook her head, sharing a pointed look. "You can yell all that you want, boy. Nobody's going to hear you here. So go up, scream!" He clutched my neck with both hands and squeezed it. Terrified, I kicked him and struggled with all my strength, but the other 2 grabbed my arms and pushed me against the wall, effectively immobilizing me. The man's hands were huge and powerful, and he smelled of wine and iron. I gasped, trying to get some air into my lungs, but it was all useless. I could feel the beginnings of unconsciousness starting to grasp me. Why? Even a short word took me an impressive effort, but at least with my last breath, I needed to ask. The man burst into laughter without letting me go an inch. Poor innocent soul. Hey, at least you go straight to heaven. And the other 2 echoed his laugh. My sight was starting to fade around the corners, but before closing my eyes, I saw the unmistakable skirt of a schoolmate, Sarah. It was a small consolation knowing that we were right and she was involved. Caving in while the last remnants of oxygen reached my brain, I shut my eyes tightly and thought of Rick. Rick hugging me, Rick's lips on mine, Rick's comforting scent and warmth surrounding me. And then, even my mind's eye disappeared. Ja, okay. Wie erwartet, haben wir das Bad End gekriegt. War jetzt keine Überraschung, dass es tatsächlich passiert, wenn wir hochgehen. Dass wir da ja umgebracht werden, erwürgt werden von den Leuten. Es fehlt nur noch ein Ende tatsächlich. Und ich bin wirklich am Überlegen, wo wir uns da falsch entschieden haben. Hm. Vielleicht war es wirklich die andere Entscheidung. Also nicht, ich habe es tatsächlich da vergessen. Ähm, genau, wo wir mit Sarah unterhalten haben, dass wir ihn aufgehalten haben, mit ihr zu sprechen. Und dass wir es Damien überlassen, aber das ist irgendwie, wüsste nicht, was daraus Gutes entstehen sollte. So, ich musste jetzt gerade einen kurzen Cut machen tatsächlich, ähm, da ich gemerkt habe, dass mir mein Aufnahmeprogramm mittendrin einfach nicht mehr aufgenommen hat. Deswegen musste ich gerade nochmal alles ganz kurz durchklicken, in der Hoffnung, ich bin jetzt wieder beim richtigen Part und musste jetzt mit dem Ende, das es wieder aufgenommen hatte, wieder zusammenschneiden. Also ich hoffe, man merkt nicht, dass ich zu viel gecuttet habe jetzt hier drin. Ähm, Ich bin hier jetzt bei der Entscheidung, ähm, die wir schon mal getroffen haben und dabei das Bad Relationship End gekriegt haben. Diesmal bin ich aber, ich weiß nicht, was wir da tatsächlich falsch gemacht haben, aber ich glaube, weil wir damals an dem Tisch nicht zu ihm gehalten haben. Und deswegen haben wir dann das Bad Relationship End gekriegt und jetzt haben wir dieses Mal, also ich bin diesmal den Weg gegangen, dass wir zu ihm gehalten haben und jetzt Trust in Rick und mal gucken, welches Ende wir jetzt kriegen. Ich hoffe, es ist ein gutes Ende. Also ich hoffe, es ist der gleiche Text, den ich eigentlich schon mal gelesen habe und jetzt für euch extra nochmal lesen werde, damit das Let's Play auch vollständig ist. Also viel Spaß. Trust in Rick. I watched as Rick kneeled in front of the girl and took her hands in his, trying to make her look at him. You know how this ends, don't you? Alex gets hurt and you end up in jail. There's no way back once you're there. You'll be a criminal for the rest of your life. Is that what you want? Sarah shook her head with the gaze still focused on the floor and not on Rick. We know you came from a bad place, but there's still hope for you. You can live in a safe life, an honest one, working and perhaps even remarrying. Your hair will grow and people will forget about your past. No, they won't. Are people mistreating you here in school? No, they all have been good to me, but that's just because they don't know me at all. And they don't need to know about your past self. Don't you see? You are far from home. You can start from anew and be the person you want to be. And you don't want to be a murderer, do you? The girl raised her face enough to look at Rick and shook her head slowly. There were tears in her eyes, threatening to fall down her cheeks any moment now. She wiped them harshly with her sleeves. I'm not a murderer. I can't do something like that. Yet, if you don't talk now, you will be sent to prison for covering up a murder. She sobbed in silence at that, and Monty advanced with a chair and placed it by her side. She sat down, looking defeated. I know this boy is innocent. He hasn't done anything to deserve being murdered or harmed. You boys have been very kind to me. This is why I couldn't allow it to happen. I had to warn you. But we need to know more. We need enough evidence to go to the police and stop them for real. She looked at Damien, who was towering over her, and her face was a mask of panic. But they will kill me if I go to the police. They won't. They will be imprisoned and you will be free. You can follow with the life as if nothing had happened. She rubbed temples, obviously trying to decide what to do. Please, Sarah. I don't even know who might want to murder me. I felt close to tears myself. The girl looked at me at last and her face softened. She reached for one of my hand and squeezed it. Poor innocent kid. You really have no idea. She let go of me and sighed it. I didn't want it to come to this. I never wanted to harm anyone. I'm not like that. Then how did you end in this situation? She made a long, thoughtful silence before she started talking. He was the only one who would take me in when my husband kicked me out. It was night and winter. I had made a stupid mistake, and none of my acquaintances would help me. My husband was a brute and a drunkard, but my lover wasn't any better. I knew I couldn't count on him, but I didn't expect that everybody else I knew would turn their backs on me and close the doors in my face. So when Jonathan offered to take me in, I really hadn't any other option. I knew he wasn't the honest person, but what could I do? It was that or not surviving the winter on the streets. We looked at each other, feeling somewhat guilty. I remembered Mrs. Hutchinson's word when she talked about Sarah, and I guessed that was the usual attitude she was getting everywhere. I took care of his house for a while, turning a blind eye on his night activities, but after months he got hired along a group of mates of his. I nearly jumped, but I managed to bite my tongue. I didn't want to interrupt her. She looked at me either way. It was your aunt who hired us boy, Mrs. Emily White, the widow of the late Edward White. I let my jaw fall dumbfounded. What? Aunt Emily? But why? Because of money, what else? Your uncle left you his house and almost everything he owned in his will. You didn't know that? That makes no sense. My father told me Uncle Edward left me a sum for my studies, that's all. Well, he clearly didn't want to tell you the whole truth yet. Are you sure about that? Why would Uncle Edward do such a thing? Damien chuckled by my side, and it wasn't a nice sound. Well, isn't it obvious? You are Uncle Edward's son, and that hagworm you call Aunt Emily certainly hates the idea. My eyes wandered from face to face, uncertain. I didn't know how to react. Was that true? They weren't playing a prank on me, that was clear, but they must have had it wrong. There was no way my father and my mother weren't my real parents. Or was there? My head ached and I started to feel a bit dizzy. They were all talking at the same time but Rick suddenly shut up and took my hand. Alex, come here, let's lie you down on your bed for a while. I felt a lot better once I was in a horizontal position. Rick dragged a chair to my side and sat down close to me, for which I was glad. I listened to the rest of the story from there. Sarah's man was the gardener, and he was the masked man who attacked me that day in the woods. The other new servants were Jonathan's Evildorer mates, plus a couple of them who stayed in town for further help. I'm sorry I had to hear about your family's secrets from me, boy. I'm sure your parents will confirm my words once you have the chance to talk with them. I nodded. A long, calm conversation with them was overdue, it seemed. Somehow, even when I didn't really know the girl and the story was surprising, once the bewilderment had passed, I started to believe that what she had told me. It was awkward and painful, but she didn't have any reason to lie to me. I had never shared a long, meaningful conversation with Uncle Edward, so I was really surprised when my father told me about his will. And about Aunt Emily, well, it was true that she always pulled her face when she saw me, but getting to the point of wanting me dead? How could she hate me so much? Even if everything was true, as I suspected was the case, it was my fault that I was born. I didn't ask to inherit anything at all from Uncle Edward either. And now that I thought about it, it was quite a lot. Uncle Edward was loaded, nothing to do with the modest patrimony owned by my father. Well, Alex, if you're feeling alright enough, we should go to the police. I nodded. I sat up and my head still spun, but I couldn't cowardly hide behind my friends. It was time to face my life and react. Sarah, let's go to talk to the head teacher, and then we'll go with you to town, and you must tell the police everything you told us, the names and my aunt's name. She pressed her lips together, but her eyes were dry and she looked determined. She nodded and stood up. The head teacher allowed me to accompany him and Sarah to the police, where we gave our statements. The head teacher sent a telegram to my parents, and they came to the school the next day. Our conversation was indeed long and painful, and sadly, it confirmed Sarah's story point by point. It seems Uncle Edward had a relationship with another woman when he was already engaged to Aunt Emily, but he didn't know about my existence until 2 years later, when said woman brought me to his house and left me there. My parents never knew her name. She needed to get rid of me in order to be able to work, so Uncle Edward promised to take care of me. She disappeared and didn't come back, not even once. Of course, Aunt Emily was furious and finding out about me, and she wanted to send me to an orphanage. They didn't convey any children, so according to my father, having to give me up broken Uncle Edward's heart. The best solution he found was that I was adopted by his elder brother, my father, who had already a bunch of children on his own, but who of course was willing to help. At this point, I stared at my parents' faces with sadness. The head teacher had lent us his office so we could talk in peace, and we were sitting on his leather armchairs and ignoring our teacups. My poor mother sobbed, and I couldn't help it anymore and rushed to hug her. "Don't cry, Mom. You two will always be my parents, no matter what. Oh, Alex, you were the one who fed me and bathed me when I was a child, and the one who read me fairy tales and cared for me when I was ill, and Dad was the one who I could always turn to when I needed advice. Nothing has changed, don't you see?" "Of course, Alex. You know you're as much our son as your all other siblings. We will always be there for you." "I know." My father came closer, and I hugged him too, feeling a huge knot in my throat. As much as I feared it, in the end I had to face my aunt in court. Bearing it with my father and my mother by my side made it a bit easier, but still it was shocking and painful realizing that someone hated me up to that point and that she had been loathing me for years, wishing I was dead. Watching and listening to her coming apart, I thought it was less the money and more her hurt pride that let her act that way towards me. I still felt sad and horrified listening to all the details of the case. My mother wanted to spare me that hard moment, but I wanted to hear it all. I decided that I had been overprotected enough for my entire life, so I stood at the curb with my brave face and tried to come to terms with the truth. Once back in school, thought I spent the whole hour just lying in Rick's arms, calming down. Everything had passed, but I doubted I would ever be trusting of other people's as I was before. Not to mention that I would never feel completely safe again, even with those men and my aunt being bars. Although then, at least I knew I could rely on my friends. Thanks to them, my world had turned wider, not limited to just my family anymore, and I felt strong enough to face whatever danger life could provide in the future. With friends by my side, I could face it all. The months went by too quickly for my taste, and even though I enjoyed my time in St. Michael, it finally came to an end. Thanks to Rick's help, my grades were fairly good, and I couldn't feel more relieved. "I still can't believe that you got better grades than me." "Perhaps if you had worked as hard as Alex, you would have topped his grades." I laughed happily. Monty's grades were good too, but his cricket team had taken a good chunk of his time, and of course it had its consequences. "But next term I will be the cricket team for my college. What are you guys doing? Will we meet?" "Not me, I'm afraid. My father wants me to attend his old college in Oxford. I would think he made a reservation for me the day I was born with the way he talks about it." "Oh, what a pity. I think Monty, Alex and I are going to Cambridge." "Yes, I still can't believe it myself, but next time we will meet in Cambridge. Feel free to visit me whenever you can. I throw a welcome party for you." He winked at us and grinned, as if he needed an excuse for a party, but I couldn't deny that I would miss him the next year. "Same, expect for the party bit, but I really hope you can visit us in Cambridge." "I'm so happy at least 3 of us will be together next year. Perhaps we can share a room in the dorms there, don't you think?" Rick and I shared a pointed look, and Damien got amused. "Actually, we have already booked a twin bedroom, sorry. Most bedrooms are just for 2 people, you know." I tried to sound normal, but I could feel my cheeks go warm, and Damien's smirk didn't help with the situation. "Oh, well, I'm going next week with my parents, at least. I will book a room next to you too." "Oh yes, please. You must be our neighbor." The dynamic trio studying together in Cambridge? Hell yes. I bet it'd be boring without me. "I bet it won't be. Or at the very least, it won't be punished because of your mischiefs. I still remember our first year in St. Michael's for your information." "Was it so terrible?" "Worse. Damien managed to put the blame on me for almost whatever he did. After the first month, I had broken the school record for going to the head teacher's office." We all laughed, and Damien hid behind me in case Monty wanted to claim revenge for a final time. Our last day in St. Michael's arrived. Our families came to meet us for the formal closures of the academic year. The garden was full of garlands and tables with delicious food. The cricket team played a friendly match against the teachers, and there were prizes and speeches. Rick was the student chosen to address the final speech, and he was brilliant. I had never felt so proud of someone. But, of course, it was to be expected, since he was the number 1 in our promotion. I earned a discreet but proud number 6, thanks to him, which made my mother cry tears of joy. After the speeches, and after everybody congratulated Rick, he approached me, looking nervous. "Relax, the speech is done now. You can sit with us and enjoy the party." His smile was tense. I stood up from our bench and came closer, leaning in to speak to him without being heard. "What's wrong? You're really pale." "I am going to speak with my father." I glanced at the place where his family was having lunch, the men standing around the table and chattering with other fathers while the ladies sat down and giggled. Rick's parents, his brothers and Suzanne were there. "Are you sure? You don't have to do it, you know. You have plenty of time until you finish your studies." He shook his head with determination. "I don't want to postpone it any further. I should have done it years ago, and now it's the time. I must do it for myself, and for you." My chest tightened in anxiety, but of course it was his choice, so I must support him. I nodded and tried to offer him a smile and saw him go. I watched the exchange from my table after the first sentence. His father grabbed Rick's arms and pulled him further from the people so they could have some sort of privacy. Even though I couldn't hear them, I saw his father gesticulating angrily and probably yelling at Rick. I bit my thumbnail uneasy. After a long tirade by Rick, though his father seemed to calm down, and although when they parted ways, his father looked still furious, Rick came back to our table, grinning from ear to ear. "Alex, I've told him. For the first time in my life, I told my father I don't want to follow his steps and do whatever he decides for me. I'm so proud of you." "And how has he reacted?" "Well," he scratched his head and looked a bit ashamed. "I still have to study law. I had to agree with some of his terms. Obviously, you don't want to be disinherited, do you? And we have already planned on studying in Cambridge. I'd rather do history with you than law, but well, I think it's worth it. Alex, my father has accepted to cancel the engagement." I couldn't believe my ears. I wanted to jump in his arms. Instead, my eyes darted to his family. Susan was sitting with them, speaking with Rick's mother, oblivious of the news. But really? How have you managed?" "During these last months, Suzanne and I have talked about it in our letters, and she has hinted to our families more than once that we weren't happy with the engagement, so my father was half expecting that this would happen sooner or later. He's rather disappointed, of course, but I think as long as I study law and will take over his firm when the time comes, he's quite ready to accommodate any other changes." "So we can go to Cambridge without the threat of any other engagement proposal hanging over our heads?" "That's what I think. Well, unless it's your parents who force someone on you." "Oh my God, don't joke about that." We laughed and embraced each other for a moment before going back to the table where our friends were waiting for us. My year at St. Michael's was certainly packed with events, but I couldn't be gladder of how everything had ended. I had found friendship, wealth, and true love, and my own path in life. I was ready to welcome my future with my arms wide open. Good ending! Jawohl! Wir haben es geschafft! Wir haben es geschafft, alle 9 Enden zu spielen. Wie cool! Und jetzt bin ich doch froh, dass wir erst die 2 schlechten Enden erwischt haben und jetzt zum Schluss tatsächlich das Let's Play mit einem guten Ende beenden können. Und ich muss sagen, das Spiel ist echt sehr, sehr schön. Mir hat es unfassbar viel Spaß gemacht, das durchzuspielen. Und ich kann es nur empfehlen, dass es jeder mal für sich selber spielt. Und ja, ich muss sagen, mir von den also von den Charakteren her, gefällt mir Damien am besten. Vom Weg der Geschichte hin, egal ob es jetzt hin zum guten, bösen oder bösen Beziehungsende kam, gefiel mir Ricks Geschichte am besten. Von den bösen Enden hat mir, beziehungsweise von den schlechten Enden, nicht den bösen Enden, Quatsch, hat mir Montys am besten gefallen, das damals im Wald. Von den Bad Relationship Ants tatsächlich Ricks, weil ich fand das wirklich traurig. Weil das kam auch irgendwie unerwartet tatsächlich. Ich habe damit nicht gerechnet, dass er jetzt tatsächlich Schluss macht mit uns. Obwohl eigentlich alles gut lief zwischen uns. Und beim guten Ende, gute finde ich alle drei schön. Wer findet gute Ende nie schön? Nicht schön. Und wobei ich da auch Damien und Ricks bevorzuge. Ja, ich kann auch sagen, das Spiel ist echt schön. Es ist auch nicht teuer auf Steam und unterstützt die Entwickler. Es lohnt sich auf jeden Fall. Und damit würde ich mich ganz, ganz herzlich bei euch bedanken für das Zuhören und fürs Dranbleiben an der Geschichte. Und ich wünsche euch noch einen schönen Abend. Bei mir ist es nämlich gerade 7:30, deswegen wünsche ich euch jetzt einfach einen schönen Abend. Und ich hoffe, wir sehen uns bald in einem anderen von meinen Let's Plays wieder. Und damit auf Wiedersehen.